Welcome to this deep dive. So you shared that really interesting market report on automotive catalytic converters, looking ahead to 2025.
I did, yes. It paints quite a picture of the industry.
It really does. The numbers alone are pretty staggering. So the plan today is to really dig into it, pull out the key takeaways, and understand where this market is actually going.
Sounds good. There's definitely a lot happening, a lot of change.
Okay, let's dive right in then. The report starts big, talking about a global market size of, USD 145.24 billion expected in 2025.
That's the figure, yeah. A massive baseline.
And it doesn't stop there. It's projected to grow to USD 287.29 billion by 2033.
Which is huge growth. The compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, that comes out to 8.90% between 2025 and 2033.
And almost 9% CAGR.
That's
really strong, isn't it? Especially for a market tied to combustion engines with all the EV talk.
It is. It really signals that, despite the shift towards electric, the demand for advanced emission control for gasoline and diesel engines is still incredibly robust globally, for the next decade at least.
Right. But the report stresses this growth isn't the same everywhere. It varies quite a bit by region.
Exactly. Different factors are at play in different parts of the world.
So let's kick off with North America. They seem to be leading the pack currently.
They are projected to hold over 40% of the global revenue. We're talking about USD 42.12 billion for their market size in 2025.
Okay, 40%. And their growth rate?
The CAGR for North America is pegged at 7.9% for that 2025 to 2033 period. Solid, if not the absolute highest globally.
And inside North America, the U.S. is obviously the giant.
Oh, absolutely. USD 33.23 billion forecast for the U.S. in 2025, growing at 7.7%.
But Canada and Mexico are growing a bit faster.
It's slightly, yeah. Canada's at USD 5.05 billion, but with an 8.7% CAGR, and Mexico at USD 3.83 billion with 8.4%.
Interesting. So maybe catching up a bit or different fleet dynamics?
Could be. Different rates of industrial expansion, maybe faster adoption of newer vehicles needing advanced converters in some segments.
And what's keeping North America on top overall? The report mentioned regulations, right?
Definitely. Stringent emission rules are key. Think EPA standards nationally and especially CARB in California, which often leads the way.
CARB is always pushing the envelope.
They are. Plus, you've got ongoing vehicle production and just, growing environmental awareness among consumers pushing demand too.
Okay, let's hop across the pond to Europe. Also a huge player.
Very significant. Over 30% of the global revenue share. Their market size is forecast at USD 53.74 billion in 2025.
Slightly bigger than North America in total value for 2025 then.
Yes, actually, interesting point. Their projected CAGR is a touch lower, though, at 7.4%.
And Europe's more fragmented market-wise.
Yeah.
Germany, UK, France, Italy, Russia, and Spain too.
That's right. Germany is the largest single market there, expected at USD 10.64 billion with a 7.6% CAGR. The UK is also substantial, USD 9.03 billion, 8.2% CAGR.
So similar drivers to North America. Regulations.
Very much so. The EU's Euro 6 standards have been really influential, and now everyone's watching the upcoming Euro 7 standards.
Which are expected to be even tougher.
Exactly. That, combined with a really strong focus on sustainability across European society, keeps pushing the need for better catalytic converters.
Right. Now, the big growth story seems to be Asia-Pacific, APAC.
Absolutely. That's where the numbers get really eye-catching. Currently around 23% global revenue share, so USD 34.86 billion in 2025.
Okay, so smaller share than Europe or North America right now.
Yeah, look at the growth. The highest projected CAGR by far, 11.7% between 2025 and 2033.
Wow, double digits. That's huge. And within APAC.
Some really high growth spots. India is forecast at a massive 13.6% CAGR. Southeast Asia around 12.5%. Even places like Singapore, Taiwan, they're all showing really strong growth above 11%.
And China. Still a major force.
Oh, absolutely. China's projected at USD 14.64 billion in 2025 with an 11.2% CAGR. Japan and South Korea are significant too, though slightly lower KGRs around 10-11%.
So what's fueling this APAC explosion?
It's a combination, really. Rapid industrialization, massive increases in vehicle production.
More cars being made and sold.
Exactly. And critically, many of these countries are now bringing in much stricter emission regulations. They might be starting from a lower base than Europe, but the rate of change is fast.
So expanding market and tightening rules, that's the recipe.
That's the perfect storm for catalytic converter growth, yes. It also has big implications for, precious metal demand globally.
Good point. Okay, let's quickly cover the other regions. South America.
South America makes up over 5% of the global revenue, growing at a strong 9.6% CAGR. Brazil and Argentina are the ones to watch there.
Driven by similar factors. Economic growth, more regulations.
Pretty much, yeah. Growing vehicle ownership and a gradual tightening of emission rules, especially addressing urban air quality.
And the Middle East?
Smaller share, around 2%, but a very healthy 10.2% CAGR projected. Saudi Arabia and the UAE are key markets, driven by increasing vehicle sales and, again, stricter emission standards being phased in. Smallest share, about 1%, but still growing significantly at 9.2% CAGR. South Africa is the most prominent market mentioned. Similar story. Rising vehicle sales, new emission regulations coming online.
Okay, so that paints the global picture. Growth everywhere, but really accelerating in APAC. Now let's break it down by product type. Three-way converters are dominant.
Yes, the three-way oxidation reduction catalytic converters, they're the standard for gasoline engines because they tackle the big three pollutants, NOx, CO, and hydrocarbons.
All in one go.
Exactly. And with regulations getting tighter, especially in North America and Europe, you pretty much need these for gasoline cars.
But the fastest growing segment is diesel oxidation catalysts, DOCs. That seems a bit surprising with the diesel passenger car decline in some areas.
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance, but while diesel cars might be down in, say, Europe, the global demand for cleaner diesel tech is still rising.
Ah, so think trucks, commercial vehicles.
Precisely. Heavy-duty trucks, off-road equipment, buses. Diesel is still essential there. And regulations for those vehicles are getting much stricter worldwide. DOCs are crucial for cutting particulates, HC and CO, from diesel exhaust.
That makes sense. Okay, what about the materials inside these things? Platinum's still the leader.
It holds the largest market share, yes.
Hmm.
Its catalytic properties are just, well, excellent, especially its durability at high temperatures. It works well in both gasoline and diesel systems.
Even though it's expensive.
Even though it's expensive, its performance often justifies the cost, particularly for meeting the toughest standards.
But palladium is growing fast. Why the surge there?
Palladium's growth is mainly tied to gasoline engines. It's become a really effective and often more cost-effective alternative to platinum for oxidizing CO and hydrocarbons in gasoline exhaust.
So as gasoline engines remain dominant and their standards tighten.
The demand for palladium has gone up significantly. There's also been that whole shift, relatively speaking, away from diesel passenger cars in Europe towards gasoline, which further boosted palladium.
Right, the cost and effectiveness balance shifted a bit. Now, vehicle types. Passenger cars are the biggest segment, obviously.
Yeah, no surprise there. Just the sheer volume of cars produced and owned globally makes it the largest market for converters. Plus, strict rules, especially for urban driving, keep demand high for advanced converters in cars.
But the report flagged medium and heavy-duty trucks as growing rapidly.
That's that diesel point again. Governments everywhere are clamping down on emissions from trucks and buses. Think Euro 6 EPA rules in the US.
They produce a lot of emissions per vehicle.
Exactly. And with global logistics, e-commerce, all that stuff booming, there are more trucks on the road. So more trucks needing better, more effective catalytic converters. That drives the rapid growth in that segment.
Got it. So beyond the core factors of regulations and production, what other dynamics are driving the market?
Well, interestingly, the report mentions the growth in hybrid vehicles.
Hybrids. But aren't they meant to be cleaner?
They are, but they still have an internal combustion engine that needs emissions control. And often, the stop-start nature and different operating conditions require even more sophisticated catalytic converter technology to work effectively, especially during cold starts.
Ah, okay. So hybrid growth actually boosts demand for advanced converters, for now.
For now, yes. Also, nanotechnology and new materials are constantly being developed to make converters more efficient, lighter, and more durable.
And the aftermarket. Older cars needing replacement.
That's a big factor, too. Cars are staying on the road longer in many places, so the demand for replacement converters for the existing fleet keeps growing. It's a steady business.
Okay. On the flip side, what's holding the market back or could slow it down?
The obvious one is the rise of fully electric vehicles. No engine, no converter needed. That's the long-term challenge, definitely.
Big existential threat, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. In the shorter term, the fluctuating prices of those precious metals, platinum, palladium, rhodium, are a real headache for manufacturers. They can swing wildly and really impact costs.
I bet. And what about key trends shaping the future?
Two big ones mentioned. First, the ongoing push for higher performance and lower weight. Lighter converters mean better fuel economy, lower overall emissions, so constant innovation there.
And the second.
Recycling. A huge focus on getting those precious metals back from old converters.
Makes sense, given the cost and supply issues.
Exactly. It's becoming economically vital and also much better from an environmental perspective than mining new metal. You hear more and more about the value in scrap converters.
Right. Finally, the competition. It's described as highly competitive.
It is. You've got major global players all investing heavily in R&D, forming partnerships, and trying to get an edge on technology and sustainability.
The report gave that BASF example.
Yeah, the tri-metal catalyst with Siboney-Stillwater and Impala Platinum back in 2020, that was all about reducing reliance on palladium by substituting some platinum back into gasoline converters, a direct response to market dynamics.
Smart. And the Vitesco example.
Vitesco Technology is working on electrically heated catalysts for diesel. The idea is to get the converter up to temperature much faster, especially on cold starts, to slash NOx and CO2 emissions right from the get-go.
So lots of tech innovation still happening.
Absolutely. The competition is really driving advancements in efficiency and cost-effectiveness.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We're seeing a really large global market for catalytic converters set to grow significantly over the next decade or so.
Definitely. Driven mainly by emission rules getting tougher worldwide and continued vehicle production.
North America and Europe are the current big players by value, but Asia-Pacific is where the truly explosive growth is happening.
Yeah, that 11.7% CAGR in APAC is the standout figure.
In terms of products, three-way converters dominate for gasoline, but diesel oxidation catalysts are growing fastest due to trucks and commercial vehicles.
And material-wise, platinum is key, but palladium use is expanding rapidly, especially in gasoline applications.
Passenger cars are the biggest vehicle segment, but heavy-duty trucks are catching up fast in terms of growth rate.
Right. And while EVs are the long-term challenge and metal prices are a constraint, things like hybrid tech, nanotech, and especially recycling are key trends driving things forward now.
It really paints a complex picture of an industry adapting to huge pressures.
It does. It's definitely not standing still. The need to clean up combustion engine emissions remains critical, even as the transition to electric gathers pace.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, the listener. Given this rise of electric vehicles, how do you think these ongoing innovations we've discussed in the converters themselves, the materials, and especially the focus on recycling precious metals, how will all that shape the future of this industry? Will new designs or materials emerge to keep catalytic technology relevant in some form, perhaps in hybrids or even beyond?
Yeah, what's the next evolution look like as the car park changes? It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
A fascinating space to watch. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.